Welcome to the Leadership Guide, the show that takes you from peak performer to legendary leader by helping you unlock your heroic potential to emerge into who you are meant to be. On today's episode, we have a conversation with Daniel Hanneman and discuss martial arts philosophy in business, the importance of interdependence and collaboration, the quality of a true master, why the situation you're in matters, the aspects of passion we don't talk about, and how it all ties to leadership. I'm your host, Cody Dakota, founder of the Leadership Guide, member of the Forbes Coaches Council, and finalist for the Extraordinarian Award for coaches with ideas that can change people, businesses, and the world for the better for my ideas on leadership. Stay tuned to the end of the episode to discover how to join the League of Legendary Leaders, an association of leaders with the goal to raise $100,000 monthly to support nonprofit causes which are currently looking to impact the world and make it better for future generations. Now, on to the show. Hey, Daniel, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm so very happy to be here.
Awesome. I'm happy for you to be here. Oh, man. So Daniel Hanneman. Wow, I almost messed that one up. Daniel Hanneman, tell us about yourself, all the awesome things you're working on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited. I am working with, emerging leaders from my own perspective. I'm really excited with meeting with having new clients and meeting with new people who are up to big things in the world. People that are ready to cure cancer because they already have an 85% success rate doing it holistically, and just all kinds of people are working on whatever they can do to contribute to bring more good to the planet and the world and shift the consciousness and get the technologies and the things that work already into people's hands, and to infuse that through podcasting and the message out there, right? That the cures are there, and the old ways of doing things don't have to exist anymore. And one of the things I'm up to too is doing retreats, taking people on. I'm doing a lot of things, but I'm doing retreats for people where I'm taking transformational leaders to India with a partner of mine, and we're bringing them together and having them really get deeper in their connection with spirit, and allowing their vision and their power and their leadership to come to a new level, and to be able to spend time together as a community and envision a retreat center for ourselves that we call Transformation Island. So that, just right off the top of my head, those are like some of the kind of cool things that are on my plate right now. And it's a lot of work. You know how it is. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun. You can make sure I get enough time, decompression time as well. And it's quite a journey.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It does sound like you're working on some amazing things. One thing that really, really stuck out to me was you were talking about cancer there for a second. And that one's sticking big in my mind because one of my best friends from back home, I've known this guy since I was like a little child. Our parents went to high school together, and then we grew up together, one of those kinds of friendships. He was diagnosed with brain cancer, what would it be now? Maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And then it went into remission. And then I actually literally last night found out that it's back again. And so that one's, and then I've had different people in my life who've been important to me fight cancer. And most of them have beaten the battle with cancer, luckily, which is awesome to hear.
Awesome.
And the way technology is going and new discoveries are being made, the future of cancer seems really awesome. But what exactly are you doing in that area? Just because I'm really curious.
Oh, I'm not doing anything directly myself. I'm supporting someone who has a big vision for doing that. It's been doing it for decades, but who wants to spread the information and help other people to be able to do what he can do as a practitioner to help people with that. So that I mention him because he's one example of people I get so excited to help. They're wanting to deepen in their own connection and their own deeper vision and all that sort of thing. And that's what I do. I help people to get inwardly deeper connect. They realize it's not just like get out there and just do stuff only. No, it's something much far deeper, far grander than that, where we get so interconnected and interlinked with life and the opportunities that are there, that we start co-collaborating with not just the universe, as we say, but intimately with like the right people too. Like that's what's really exciting to me. It's bringing communities together that are awakening spiritually and get it and want to spread that through their messages and their works in the world. So that's why I brought that up. I'm just like, man, it already exists, and just because there's so much of the old energy, we could get into conspiracy theories and the realities of that. But like, it's just like, yeah, just rather than fight against what is, it's like, okay, that's what's been, like, let's just bring this and know that it's happening. A lot of times what I find with innovative things is they keep getting, people will stop to do them because they do feel intimidated. They feel they're at risk, whether it's just fears or real tangible potential dangers. Like, people have been known to, maybe it's conspiracy theories, but people have been killed, showing up with new innovations and stuff that go against like the establishment. So, but me, I love supporting people energetically because that's one of my gifts, is just holding, as an energy healer and everything. It's like I hold the space for people to safely be able to bring their gifts and their energy and their visions forth. And I just feel, I love to be a champion for that.
Definitely. I 100% understand that, because that's a lot of what I do too as a coach. That's kind of something that we're called to do. One of the really important things you were talking about in there is that interdependence, right? It's the concept that you can't do everything on your own and I can't do everything on my own. But when we unite in our strengths, what's achievable is amazing. And we're able to bring forth these awesome things like ways to battle cancer, or break down establishments that we know aren't working for the better good. And it's only when we come together as a united force that these things actually even become feasible.
Right. That's true, because they're not working in isolation either. So like, they've got lots of people working together. So it makes sense that we need to work together. And I've tried like my own experiment over, if we look back, I started off in therapy, becoming a therapist, got a master's degree in clinical psychology, and we got all these different jobs and stuff. And I just, as I got on the online world, though, as my path went that way, ultimately, I found, like, as I got on the online world, it was all about collaboration. If I wasn't collaborating, I was just making it a lot harder for myself. And even when I've experimented at times trying, like, well, maybe what if I get less collaborative? What if I try my own thing? And I'm like, for me, especially, maybe it's not true for every single person, but for me, when I'm up to in the world, it's like every time I stop collaborating more, it's like that's where all the energy goes down and like the impact goes down. And it's just like, okay, that doesn't work. No, more partnership, more collaboration. And you have to be mindful about it. I think that's something that is important. I talk to people about that a lot. You can't just, oh, we're all collaborating, let's just do whatever. You have to be very discerning and really, like, does it really feel right? And then work through like the relationship dynamics that come up when we're partnering in a business with someone, or we're partnering in a new venture, or we're just partnering to do a podcast or whatever. Sometimes, the more in depth the thing is there's a lot of energy to be exchanged and worked through. And that is so amazing if you're willing to work through it. Just, oh, I'm feeling really heavy about this, and just good communication. And that way we can move things forward often. Rather than like, oh, it got weird and, I just decided to be out, right? So that's okay, but it's just like, we can find like a lot of healing, a lot of strength by moving through those things. Then we will look out in the world and we say, oh, it's a mess. Well, if we're moving through all that stuff, we're helping to create the world that we're looking for by being willing to get down into the details, speak our truth in any connections, any collaborations we're in with people, and just hash those things out. They put us in our power. They put the other person in their power. Everyone's respected. Everyone's loved that way. We approach it correctly, and it's just the most amazing thing. So a big part of what I like to teach people is about embracing, love everything, love everything that comes up in your life, your collaborations, whatever it may be. But like when we embrace everything, there's literally nothing that can stop you. I mean, we can all get caught up in our challenges at moments, but ultimately it's like everything just feeds like the invincible, love and lights and laughter and goodness of everything ultimately from that place. So that's where the real true power is for me. It's a big piece of it anyway.
Definitely. And I think that love honestly is one of the most powerful forces in the world, if not the most powerful force. Some people might argue with me about that. That's okay, because I'm willing to stand out and say that. I think that it's either the love that allows us to really create and achieve amazing things, or the lack of love that creates the separation and the disintegration of things in the world. And so like when people find themselves in isolation, it's because there's a lack of love, either because they're not looking for it and purposely distancing themselves for one reason or another, or because other people have done it to them, which is a sad reality in life. And something that I think we need to work towards is, how do we create better connections with people? And the underlying force of that is love.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so I know that when your personal dynamics, like I want to get back to the challenge of it. For me, I have run into my shadow with that at times. It's like, wow, I'm feeling, maybe if it's someone who's like does things similar to me, there could be moments when it's so synergistic, and then at times it's like, oh, I'm feeling really like jealous, or I'm feeling like if I'm partnering a JV partnership, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, but you just took some of my clients. But I would forget, like I just gained some new clients from them too, and it doesn't matter because it's all circulating anyway, and it's what I mean. It's ridiculous. So, but like your stuff comes up in the process, but working through those in partnership, whatever it is with people, it's where the growth is. That's where when people say they want to grow their business, everything, as you know, Cody, is like that's where the real growth really happens. That's what makes everything really go ultimately when we are in action with everything. It makes everything, moves much more smoothly in an expanded way, in a deepened, beautiful way, and creates great results on every level, too, on every level you could think of: impact, money, everything.
Definitely. Yeah. And there's kind of two theories to the how the world kind of works. And obviously there's tons of different theories, but this is a generalized one that a lot of people think of. A lot of people think that either the world is a pie, right? And I need to get the largest chunk of it that I can, or the world is filled with abundance. The way I like to talk about that one is the world is like a field, right? And if we all come together and work the field, we're able to create more crops to spread the wealth, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I personally subscribe to the second option, but it can be really hard to look at the world that way sometimes, because we do have all these things that come up internally, like, oh, we're doing very similar things, but they seem so much better than me. Or the opposite, where you see them and you're like, I'm way better than them. That's just as damaging and dangerous, right?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I don't know why this is a place to bring this up, but I'm thinking about like martial arts. We've had some conversations,
Yes.
having fun, right? Talking about the little bit I'm in. You're like way ahead of me with what I think, decades more than me.
I don't know about that.
At the same time, like that comes up to me, and because it's like I was saying, I don't know why we were getting really into it. And like, I was like, yeah, well, the true master is, in whatever level you're at, is the one that's constantly the most humble ultimately. Because like, well, I know better, I know I'm constantly learning. one of my first teachers in martial arts, oh, he always used to laugh. He was from a Korean champion or whatever, a national champion, and he'd make all the sounds when we do the fight, and bang, and all this stuff, and it's just so fun. And like one of the things he said once, he was incredible. You know, I got all my stories like you do about the people you've trained with, twisting the bag around his foot and stuff, all this stuff. But like, so, but he talked about like, yeah, if you win gold medal and you're jumping up and down, you bite on the gold medal and you think you're champion, you're not, you're loser, you're loser. Like he'd be really emphatic about like, you don't get, no, you're loser now. Like, because you don't get it, you know, you don't get it. Like, you know, this is a process of constantly deepening and growing. And I think that's one of the things, if people make a commitment to that in their entrepreneurial or business endeavors, whatever it may be, anything in life really, but like when you're so committed to that, you realize whether you feel like you're at the bottom or you're at the top and it's still all the same in a way, you're still just constantly deepening in who you are and your expression in the world. That's where it's at. That's the deep centered place. That's a great orientation for your life. And so I guess that's why the martial arts analogy came up into my mind. So it's beautiful.
Definitely. And I'm so happy you brought up martial arts because I love martial arts. And I think a big part of the reason why some of the greatest masters in martial arts have that kind of mindset, right? That they don't see themselves as the best, is because they understand how fragile the level of the best really is, because there can only be one person at a time who's the best, and there's usually hundreds, thousands, maybe even more people that are also aiming for the best. And especially in martial arts, it only takes one good hit to change a fight completely, even if it's a completely lucky hit. I remember I used to watch MMA a lot more often, and when I was watching it more often, one of the big fighters during that time was Anthony Silva. Now, Anthony Silva, he's a tremendous fighter, but I remember watching Anthony Silva, looking at his technique and everything, and I remember watching it and saying to myself, "Wow, he's a really terrible form." Right? Like he has awful form, but he was the top fighter for a good period of time. Why? Because he had extreme power behind his techniques. They were not thrown out very well, but when he made contact, he made contact. It was bad. I watched multiple fights where he was fighting someone who was significantly better than him as a fighter, and he won because he got the one hit that ended it like that.
Right.
And that it's so easy to see that in the martial arts world.
Right.
And his technique also ended up becoming his downfall, because he fought someone who was not a better fighter than him, but who was technically a lot better. Their technical skill was phenomenal, and they literally threw their leg up, and Anthony Silva threw a roundhouse kick and snapped his leg around the other person's leg because his technique was so bad.
Right.
So that ended up being his downfall.
Right.
But that's how fragile that best position really is, you know, because it can end just like that.
Yeah, and it's all the ego mind perception anyway. Like, I won, I knocked you out, right? You hit, right? That's all it takes. Now you're the champion of the world. I mean, any person could knock out a champion potentially anyway, right? No, now I'm the champion, right? One proper hit, you know, you never know, right? So,
exactly. And then, but then at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that person is better, right? It just means that at that moment, they won the battle.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And so often, right, I feel like we get trapped in this concept of I want to be the best, and it doesn't serve us well, because it's not about being the best of everybody, because that is just a ephemeral thing anyways. It will go away at some point.
Right.
Whether with age, with time, with resources, whatever it is, it will go away at some point. But more important than being the best overall is being the best version of who you are. And that's where I feel like, especially in martial arts, the greatest masters really, really understand that is even if I somehow do make it to be the best fighter in whatever league that, with whatever rules they have for that league, right? That doesn't necessarily mean I'm the best version of myself.
Right.
And it also, and also if I don't reach that, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm not the best version of myself either.
Right. Right. I mean, it reminds me of Mike Tyson outside of martial arts, but with boxing.
No, that's still martial arts. That's just American.
Right. It depends. Except I would consider martial arts personally too. But anyway, he was suddenly seemed unstoppable, right? But on a technical level, you could say, oh, then they started realizing, well, distance, the no-brainer stuff. Distance, okay, he's got short arms, we'll just keep him away from us and we'll be fine, right? So that's primarily how people beat him, it seemed. And but what I wanted to say also is to what you're saying, it's he's just an angry, rageful man, right? The only way he got love is by killing people on the ring, right? That's where he got his love. And so when he was no longer a champion, then he was really, really in a hard spot, right? And then what happened is now, he's, I don't know in details of his life, but I've heard him talk, and he's like, yeah, boy, I've had a lot of problems in my life, and I look back and I feel sorry and I feel sad for who I was actually, rather than proud, boy, I was this great champion. It's well, I realized I was really messed up. In reflection, no, not champion, really messed up, so it's really interesting.
Definitely. And that happens so often to so many of us. It's a kind of a disease in many senses. We kind of have this this mindset that's been ingrained in us through our educational systems, that there's this concept of the best, and if we're not the best, we're automatically failures, right? Even the way the educational system is designed, right? If you're not the valedictorian, you're just an okay student. And if you're if you're not an okay student, you're a failure. And if you fail at school, you're going to fail at everything. And that's not necessarily true. Can it be true? Definitely it can be, right? But how many stories are there of people who completely flunked out of high school, right? Or didn't even go to high school and have gone on to be the heads of amazing businesses? Now, I'm not saying that happens every single time. I'm not saying that's the norm, right? But it's not the only determiner either.
No, not at all. I mean, we know a lot of cases. Einstein, is considered an idiot and all this stuff. The stories go on and on. From my own experience, I was told when I went through my master's degree at the end, it was boy, you're so tuned in. I went, because I'm an intuitive business coach, master intuitive, and so I'm really tuned in. I know what's going on. So they're like, boy, you're amazing. You know exactly what's going on with people. And I have some of the students come to me, ask me about their case studies and stuff. But then they were like, but you're so different with how you approach your clients. You're just listening. And what's that all about? I was working with clients on another level that I didn't even know what I was doing exactly. It was just happening. And so they thought, well, there's a deficit here, obviously. You don't look like everybody else. So, there's a deficit. You need to look like everybody else. So I got that was part of a demerit. I was getting held back. I was considered they saw my gifts. They saw I was a good student and everything, but no, you got issues. So anyway, so I went through that, and then I got a bad fit in my first job outside of my master's degree. And then I got fired from that job because for whatever reason, I did one thing wrong and they just didn't like my fit there. It's okay, you didn't do what, it was some simple thing. Oh, okay. And anyway, it was just but you have to find the right fit. You have to find the right place to share your gifts, to share your brilliance. And that's where you'll find the success. You just be where you felt like you didn't fit in, where there you just finally flourish like nothing else. And it's a matter of just finding the right things and landing with them. It always is. Otherwise you feel like a fish out of water because you're out of your element. I mean, you're not doing your thing. I mean, again, if we take martial arts, we could talk about all day, right? So you could be an amazing at jiu-jitsu or something, Brazilian jiu-jitsu or something, but like you're not really good at striking. No matter how much you practice, you're just not that great at striking. You're just mediocre or something, right? But you're amazing at the other thing. So it's like, if you try to be a champion striker, forget it, you're not going to make it. But Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you got it, right? So like, or whatever, you could be amazing life coach, but you're just horrible at like fixing computers or something. So of course you would feel like a failure, right? Like, just common sense, really, ultimately. But like, just it's a great reminder for our audience and for all of us, really.
Definitely. And because you brought martial arts up again, the one style of martial arts that I always think of in this context, it's a style called capoeira, which if you've ever seen capoeira, it's one of the most beautiful styles of martial arts, in my opinion. And its history is awesome. It was actually brought to Brazil by African slaves. And the African slaves were not allowed to practice martial arts because they were slaves, go figure, right? And so basically they weren't allowed to practice martial arts, but they had to figure out some way to be able to defend themselves.
Oh, go on. Yeah, I've heard about this. I've heard about
awesome.
This art before, believe it or not. Go ahead, tell us about it, though. Yeah.
And so they disguise their martial art as a dance. And so when they're practicing, they've got instruments out. They're all playing instruments. They're chanting different things. And you usually have two different people doing these moves that look like a dance, but they're actually very, very finely tuning their bodies to be able to do this very specific type of martial arts. Now, when you actually study like this history of this martial arts, right? You've seen in like today's world that your MMAs, your Muay Thais, your Jiu-Jitsus, a lot of your Krav Magas, these styles have kind of come to the forefront. And it's because they're really well-designed martial arts for cage fighting, right? And you almost never see a capoeira martial artist in a cage fight. And the ones you do see there, they usually get their butts handed to them.
Sure.
And you're like, oh, that martial art may not be good, right?
Yeah.
But the
in
thing
that situation, that's not good, right?
Exactly. Capoeira was designed for African slaves to be able to get away from people who were attacking them. So it's designed to very quickly and efficiently get away from multiple attackers at once. That's why you have these different flips and things. It's very hard to take someone down when they're flipping all over the place and when they're able to move 10 feet really quickly, right? But when you force them into a cage, it's just not designed to do that.
Right. There's no space. I can't move.
Exactly. And that doesn't mean the martial art's not amazing, right? That doesn't mean they're a terrible fighter. It's just you're trying to make the fish climb a tree, right?
Exactly. I mean, now once you change, you have all these different rules. It's a whole different ballgame in a situation. That's why martial arts, we could talk forever, but like, there's so many different scenarios of martial arts. So, but it's, if you equivocate that to, again, business, life and stuff, there's so many scenarios in life. So if you think, oh, I'm well equipped for whatever, yeah, right. Like, I mean, you're not well. I mean, you talked about Bruce Lee on a podcast before, which I recommend to people if they like martial arts. You have a whole podcast around that. And so anyway, I just with him, he was constantly learning. I mean, he only lived 32 years, so still
died really young.
Yeah, he was constantly studying night and day. It's not like he ever thought well, man, I don't need to learn anything else. I mean, I'm just crushing it, and I can handle anything now. He knew there's endless learning there, and that's true in life. If you think the minute you think you got it handled, look out. You may get your butt handed to you in business or life. I mean, you've got to constantly be on your growing edge, so to speak, right? You have to constantly be learning. I mean, that's just part of the joy of life when you embrace it. It's just a constant. So absolutely.
Definitely. And there's always more to learn, right? Like even at the things you're amazing at, there's always more to learn, right? I love martial arts. I've learned so much martial arts history and the theories behind these different things. But I can tell you, I don't know half of what actually exists out there. I mean, if you just look at the Chinese martial arts alone, there are literally hundreds of styles of Chinese martial arts, literally, right?
Right.
And then like every family has their own variation. And so like like Tai Chi, right? There's five main styles of Tai Chi, but there are hundreds of variations of Tai Chi. And that's
Right.
just Tai Chi. That's only one of the styles of Chinese martial arts.
Right.
Like you can't exhaust your knowledge in that. And like it's disappointing when someone in any field feels like they've kind of reached the end of what there is to know in that field. And
Mhm.
I don't care what your business is or what your trade is, right? If you're a salesman and you think that you know everything there is to know about sales, you're
Mhm.
wrong, right? Zig Ziglar, one of the best salesmen of all time, never thought he knew it all.
Mhm. Right, exactly. Exactly. It just never ends. And that's something I've always embraced on one level, but I've also resisted, if I'm honest. There have been times when
Yeah.
I resisted the idea of needing to learn. Oh, I already know all this stuff. But I find like, again, it's like the beginner's mind. If you keep with that beginner's mind, you can always gain more from even things you've heard a million times before. So it's not always like new in people, I think, get too fascinated sometimes with only new information. It's like, okay, you might have heard this 5 million times, but maybe you need to hear it again. Maybe there's something else that's going to drop in that maybe you weren't able to hear the first 5,000 times, right? So, it's important to just constantly be in that open, receptive place of being open to hearing something and letting it drop into you where it hasn't, before as well. So, yeah, there's no limit to that. And the more I've embraced learning, in every area, like if I find I shut down, again, your growth shuts down, your sense of happiness and satisfaction goes down. Like that's like when we're lifetime learners, we keep trying new things. Like, let's say you're like, well, I don't, I'd love to be able to do this or that, but I don't know how to get started. Well, just dive in, whatever it might be. So, like, I don't know how to create a transformation island. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm seeing about it. I'm seeing about participating and making that happen. I don't know how to do it. That's part of why it's so exciting. I don't know. If you don't know how, that means it's exciting. There's something in it for you, and so that's where the passion comes from. If you don't want to learn about something anymore, my experience of that is sometimes it's resistance, but sometimes it's that maybe it just doesn't interest you anymore. Maybe it's time to get out of that thing you're doing. Like, I don't want to learn more about fixing computers because maybe it's not really your passion, right? So it just all kind of depends. But when you follow like the things you don't know about, but you feel uncomfortable about, and you're willing to learn about that and go deeper, that's where the biggest growth is, right there.
Definitely. Now you brought this up, and this is a very interesting thing that people are debating in today's world, I feel. And so I'm just curious on your take on where passion plays a role in life in general. Because it's something that a lot of people are talking about, and there's a few different viewpoints. So I'm curious, what's yours, and what have you found to be the path on that?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we could go really deep here, right? You're that kind of guy, so we could probably do that. I think for me, I happen to be a passion test facilitator with Chris and Janet Atwood, if you know about them. So I definitely have been talking about and teaching about passion for a long time. So the simplistic part of it is we help identify like what are your top 5 passions, put your attention squarely on those things, allow those things to happen in your life. So my take on, there's a lot, it's a loaded word, like so many words, right? So who knows what passion means? It's just a word, right? We don't know all what it means. But for me, it means like, what is the thing that is in your belly? What's the thing that put in you really that you're just so on fire about? And it may change somewhat to some degree throughout your life, right? You're passionate about this, now you're not, it shifts, it changes. And then there's those undercurrents of certain things that for a lifetime or more, you're just this just lives in you. It's a passion. It's something that just never seems to really completely die. And those things are the things a lot of times the label is like your sole purpose or something like that, right? So this is like my thing. I've come here, or I might say your sacred purpose, whatever, give it whatever name you want. Those are the things that are really interesting. Those are the things that when you really start, living those things, like for the people I've helped, like healers and coaches, everybody's a healer type that comes to me. They don't call themselves healers. They're wanting to heal the planet. They want to heal some way. So the passion that they have to do the healing, it's like that is what will create the highest, again, highest energy, the highest success. Therefore, so I don't know if I'm going down the pathway you're talking about, but if you're not following your passions, then you'll never. I mean, you could say, like, some people say, like, like some people have had success, like worldly success, and said it wasn't their passion. Like, I just got good at it. I just put my nose to the grindstone. But then I would say your passion was putting your nose to the grindstone to get this stuff done, right? So somewhere in there is your passion, right? So people could argue with me, but I can find where their passion was within it that made it work. Passion in my world is required for highest levels of actualization and success.
Definitely. And that's actually exactly where I was going down, because there's a lot of the two kind of different theories on passion I hear is you need passion, right? And if you don't have passion, you need to find something different. That's usually one thing. Or passion is not what you necessarily need. It's great if you have it, but you just need to get in there and do the work. Those are kind of the two big theories around it. And for me, the way I see it is that you need to have passion, but you don't necessarily need passion for what it is you're doing. You need to discover how you can be passionate in general. And so the direct work may not be what you're passionate about,
right?
But what it impacts might be what you're passionate about.
Right, exactly. Your passions are in there somewhere, man. It's like, hallelujah. Yes, brother. So it's in there. The passion is in there, or it's, you just will be miserable and you won't have the results you want to see in your life, etc. You'll just be suffering a lot. And that's what happens. People that don't live their passions, they suffer a lot. So living your passions really is you really, really step into it. It's, to me, like, one of the things that came up as you were talking is really stepping into, like, it's another one of those loaded words. It's stepping into your power. It's stepping into what's real for you. And some people will not step into their passions because they feel like, well, I might get hurt. Maybe it won't work, right? Like when you were playing as a kid and someone stole your toy or something. I don't know. Maybe it's vulnerable, right? Because you're passionate about it and you feel like something could stop you. But truly, when you're really fully in your passion, nothing could stop you. Like last night, I mean, honestly, I wasn't in a great mood. Something came up in the business and I was like in a rage or anger that I just hadn't experienced in quite a while. And I happened to be going to the gym, right? Going to work out. and you can imagine, Cody, I was in there. And I was just like, I just felt, how you get in those states where you're just like, it doesn't matter how many reps I need to do. I'm just going to keep going, like, rah! And like, by the time I was done working out, and it felt, in a way, even though I wasn't in a good mood, it felt so good, right? It feels good to be in the energy you're in if you embrace it. If you're like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling that way, that's where you're off. That's where you're not aligned with where you are. So I just got so into it. And then when I was done with the workout, I'm like, that was nothing. I could work out a lot longer. It's nothing. I don't even have a sweat on me right now. Come on. Like, I mean, literally, my attitude is I just barely got warmed up and I was in there for like an hour and a half, And like, so it just, when you're passionate, my point of using that story is when you're passionate, it feels like nothing. Like when people say hard work, I say, screw that. No, it's about being in your passion, being in the state you're in. You don't always feel that passion. Sometimes you're passionate for a nap, a day off, a week, a month off. Okay, that's your passion then. But like you follow the energy and where it's going, it's invincible, and it doesn't feel effortful because the sense of effort often just comes from resisting what wants to happen. So when you're not resisting what wants to happen, it just flows. Your energy is just amazing, and that's where it doesn't feel like it's an effort or hard work anymore. And that's the place I like to guide people into as well. It's really cool, the discoveries we can make around what's really like what really can be possible for us when we do that.
Definitely. And I think this actually gets into a key misperception with what is passion, right? Because I
Mhm.
think there's this overwhelming belief that passion is like this force that always makes you feel wonderful and amazing, and the world is full of butterflies and rainbows, and like if I don't feel that, I obviously must not be passionate, right? And
Right, right.
what I found more true than that is usually when you do feel passion, you feel all of the range of emotions at a higher level, right? It's
Yes,
it's like a more energetic feeling of whatever that emotion is.
yes,
So if you're sad, right, but you're passionate about the thing you're sad about, you're going to be more sad, but you're still passionate. Or if you're angry about the thing you're passionate about, you're going to be at a higher level of angry than if you weren't passionate. And
hmm,
it's not like passion is this like feel good, yay. Like sometimes it is, right? When things go
yes,
right and you're passionate about it.
yes,
Like you've seen people at the Olympics, they are passionate about the sports they do. And when they win, oh, you know they won, right? Because it's that high level of passion. But at the
right,
same point, you see those same people at the Olympics who didn't win, and you see the lowest levels of low,
yeah,
especially when they were right there, when they were just half a second behind someone else, or like they were winning and fell at the last second, or like that's where you see just the lowest levels of low.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. You're right. And it's for those, yeah, in that case, like, but if you're closer, you might feel even worse.
Yeah.
But I was so close, I can't live with myself. Like, I could have been there, I could have done it. So, yeah, and so you're right about this heightened emotion thing, I think is really important because a lot of times we try to, in the spiritual realm, a lot of my clients, of course, healers, energy healers, intuitive healers, and healer types, they're all spiritual types. So it's like, usually the idea in the spiritual land is like really is like the emotions, yeah, we're feeling good or forget it, I'm out, right? So like,
That's the myth we tell
about it.
ourselves, right?
Yeah,
And like if it's spiritual, like if like as a Christian, right, there are so many Christians that are like God is good and so all things should be good, right? But like that's not how it plays out. Like how many really good people in the Bible went through these periods of major anger, right?
right, right,
Or
right.
and like to the point of yelling, right? You have people literally wrestle with God in the Bible. Like that is
Yeah.
one of the stories, is wrestling with God over something. that
Mm-hmm.
that is that is a part of that passion, and so often we try and diminish it, and it's a natural part of it, I feel.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And we have to embrace the full, like you said, that we embrace. I mean, I thought you said it, but like what came to me is just, again, you have to embrace the full range of emotions. And by doing that, yeah, and they might get heightened. And I think, like, for myself, maybe at times, but like I definitely have seen that in my clients. It's like when those emotions get heightened, they start thinking like, because they're spiritual ideas, I'm only in the right place if I'm feeling good. They'll be like, well, I'm feeling really sad or really angry, and then I must be going backwards. Like, I feel more angry, and so actually everything I've done isn't worth anything right now. I've been spending money on coaches and everything. That's going all wrong now. Why did I bother? Right? That's kind of the perpetual question in my circles. Like, why did I bother to incarnate? Why am I bothering with this world, right? And it's like when you start to realize like how juicy it is, the emotions, and how fun they are when I embraced it last night. I can't say like on one level I wasn't enjoying it, another level, I was totally enjoying it, right? So
Yeah.
there's that part that just totally like it is, and it just is right now, and I'm gonna enjoy it while it lasts because I know it won't last anyway. So here we go.
Exactly. Oh, like and like yeah, martial arts. I remember I was the vice president of the martial arts club at my university. They wanted me to be the president, and I had other things going on, and I'm like, I just don't want that responsibility. So I
Mhm.
was they wouldn't let me not have a position, but I remember this one time I was sparring with this guy, and this
Mhm.
guy was hardcore American style boxer, and so really really good, really really fast. And I went into the sparring match, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to see if I can go toe to toe with him in more of a boxing style, because
Mhm.
my background was much more taekwondo, which is a lot more kicks and stuff. That's where
Mhm.
natural strengths were in my practice. But I said,
Mhm.
I'm just going to try and go into this and see what happens. And oh my goodness, he was so fast, like I could not see his hands moving, and he got me really good right in the he got me perfect with this knee. It was the most beautiful knee I've ever gotten, right into the stomach, knocked the air out of me completely, and I was down on the ground. And like in that moment, right, I'm on the ground trying to breathe, and it sucks because you can't breathe, and you're like, this sucks, I just want to breathe. But
Right.
at the same time, I had this like euphoric feeling, like I have never seen someone move that quickly and land such a technique so perfectly like that. To be able to experience that was amazing. And even though I'm on the ground trying to breathe, like I literally can't breathe, there's a euphoria to it. And I think that's what happens when you're fully passionate about these,
Yeah.
is you, even in those times where you can't breathe because it's so painful, or you can't breathe because you're so angry, or you can't see the light because there's so much clouds, right? you're you're actually like almost more excited for
Right.
the other end of what can be.
Right, exactly. I mean, just having fun, that's one of the things I always talk about is you got to have fun. I hear that from so many. I mean, again, there's always exceptions where they say they're not having fun. I even believe the crabby ones that say they're not having fun. They're fun to being they're having fun being crabby, right? So that's the way I see it. So like you have to have fun. You really need to get into it. And it's so funny. I have a story just like what you said. It's similar. Just in that I had this mindset like I've got so much power, I was in Taekwondo too, and I was like, I've got so much power in my punches, which I do. I have a lot of power in my punches. And so I'm like, okay, that's it. So I was going against someone like 5 inches taller, like probably like 40, 50 or more. It's 50 pounds heavier than me. And I go in there, I'm like, that's it. I'm going to show everybody how badass I'm going to knock. So you got to knock them backwards in Taekwondo with a hand strike, right? So it's like with a punch. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to knock this guy backwards. Guess what? Hit him. It doesn't move an inch. Next thing I know, I get smacked around and I'm on the floor before you know. So it's like, okay, I'm sitting there bang, bang, trying to do this ego thing and like down on the floor. Do you learn? Like, okay, you want to go with your ego or do you want to go with what's going to work? Right. So like if I had just been thinking towards like what's really going to work, it would have been much more enlightened. But like at the time, that was good for me because it was fun, and I learned like, okay, like you think you could do that, but like maybe you really can't. Just or maybe it's not as easy as you thought. Like just like so. There was a learning lesson in that place. So when we get knocked down on the ground, when we thought, oh, I got this idea. I can do this. This technique in my business or my whatever it is. It's like and then it doesn't work and you're crushed like oh I thought it would be so good or I'm so good or you go to serve a client like you thought your product or your service was so good and then it fails like which happens all the time like most entrepreneurs most everything fails and then a few things work really well right and that's what like oh I'm this big success like everything else failed right So it's like a process of elimination often. Okay, those I'm not so powerful. I can knock someone 50 pounds more backwards with my fist at this point in time. Okay, let's shelve that one. What will work for me? And then you adapt from there. So I didn't stay with that style long enough to find out there, but it shows you that it's like, okay, that doesn't work. Move on. What's next?
Definitely. And within the world of leadership, that's so important because so often we come up with an idea or we come up with a strategy and we're like, this is the strategy that will win. Right.
Right.
And then we start doing it and it's not working. And then we stick with it anyways because of our egos. We're like, no, this is what we said we were going to do. This is what we're doing. Dang it. And we're going to succeed whether we like it or not. And this is how we're going to do it. Right. And then like what happens to that team or that organization or that business, it doesn't end up working because they allowed their ego to take over. Right.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, absolutely. We just have to be willing to let go of everything at any point is how I put it. Like, in any moment, you have to be willing to let go of even the most treasured thing in your life, whatever it is, anything, if a family member or anything. Spiritually speaking, for me, that's a practice I need to enter back into again and again at moments, because the fear can kick in, like, oh, but what if this and what if that? So whatever it is, like, what if I lose everything? Whatever, who cares? What have you really lost? I mean, at the end, you know what I mean? In all eternity, you haven't really lost anything. Everything is well at the end of the day, so to speak. Okay, everything's fine. You know, that's for me with my background, it's like the idea of like everything that's truly deepest and real, it can't be hurt, right? It can't be hurt, it can't be touched. So when you come from that invincible spirit, you realize you really can't lose ultimately. Obviously, you always want to see the best results unfold in your life. And yet, if you have more of a detached sort of way of approaching it, and yet be energized and totally into it at the same time, that's the magic sauce. It's all of that.
Definitely. And that it's the perseverance, right? That deep internal spirit that some people like to call it the warrior spirit, right? Yeah. Where even when you lose, you don't really lose. You just get back up and you keep going. And you might look for a different strategy to get it done, but you never, ever give up.
Right. I've heard you say that on other podcasts. I'm like, right on, brother. Like, that is so me. I've got T-shirts says never back down or whatever like that. That's totally my attitude. Absolutely.
Definitely. And like, I think that's a lacking quality in our world today, which is really sad because so many people, they go for something and then it doesn't go their way. And then they just lay there for the rest of their lives. They're on the ground, just basically crying about why it didn't go right that one time. Right. Or even worse, they get something right and then they can't figure out how to get something else right. And they lay down and they die. Right. Yeah. Your classic tale is the person who was the success in high school. They were the all-star quarterback. And then like down in life, they have no job. They're kind of just sitting around an RV park, drinking beers, talking about the good old days.
Right.
And it's like, what happened? What you were doing so many great things with your life. Why did you just give up?
Right. Yeah, they can't handle the aftermath. They can't find their next act, so to speak. And you're right. And those are sad stories. You know, I think about like my mom. Like she had a success doing accounting business, and she's gone through a lot of stuff. And like the bottom line is, right now she's not making any money doing what she's doing right now. She's older now and everything, but it's like she's doing something online. It's like she's filled with passion for. So she's like, she just talked to me today. She said, she's just, her whole energy, she's just like a different person right now. And she's like, I'm not making really a whole lot of money doing this right now, but I just have a feeling it's going to succeed because I'm just so into it, and I'm with the right people to help me do this stuff online now. And everything. I'm like, Mom, I think you might be right. Maybe there is something here. I feel the good energy. Keep going. It does feel right. So, so like that's a case of where, you can lose your way. For those that, if you feel like you've lost your way at times in your life, it's never too late. My mom's in her 70s. I mean, now all of a sudden she's finding something, like she's coming alive, and she's starting to take better care of herself too, because she found something that brings her that sense of connection and passion and self-esteem and everything, because she's feeling accomplished even without all the tangible results yet. And just like so many ways where she was neglected. She stopped smoking recently. I mean, she's not 100% done with it, but like she's like kind of stopped smoking. She's not doing it the way she used to after, like however many packs a day forever. Like she's doing so many things are starting to shift for her. And it's like, so my thing is like just to remind all of us, even at my age, like at 49, like I'm a baby compared to some people, and some people's mind, you're so young. But like I'm like, sometimes that idea can creep up, and even in your 20s or 30s, even like, oh, I'm too old now. It's too late. Or it's the 60s and 70s. I hear it a lot from people. Oh, I'm old. You really think I can do that now? I'm like, you kidding me? You're just getting started if you have the right attitude. So
Exactly.
you have to have that indomitable spirit. It does to subtract out the whole concept, like, oh, but because I experienced this, I could never succeed now. Or I've experienced some of that in my life. Like, oh, I've had this now, that means this. Like your mind has to come to conclusions, right? And it's like, no, there's something really deep in there that wants to happen. It's just a matter of getting in contact with it. And that is part of the work I do, is helping to tune in to what is that and bringing that out and helping you to do that. And I happen to do that primarily for people who are already usually kind of know what it is, but like to evoke that. That's really important.
Definitely. And like one of my beliefs is until you die, there's still something else you can do in your life.
Right, right,
So if you're breathing right now, you can do something.
right.
And it can be absolutely amazing. Or even if the thing you do doesn't seem that amazing, the result of you doing it can lead to a chain reaction that becomes something amazing.
Right.
I mean, how many times has a teacher said something to a student and that student went on to do amazing things, right?
Right.
And what if that teacher chose not to say it that day?
Right.
What that person that they would have never inspired that young mind to go out and do amazing things. Like
Exactly.
that. And so often we tell ourselves we have nothing left to contribute, right?
Right.
And there's so much you can do in such a short time. People completely change their lives in less than a year.
Mm-hmm.
It happens all the time. So
Yeah.
to shortcut yourself at any age and
Right.
say that while I'm still alive, there's nothing left that I can do, baloney. There's
Right.
always something you can do. And it
Right.
doesn't have to be a grandiose thing like
Right. No.
starting a multi-billion-dollar business that, saves the rainforests and ends global warming. Like
Everything's
if
good
that's
now,
what
right?
your calling is, like, go for it.
Right.
Go
Right.
for it. But like, that's not most people's calling,
No.
right?
No.
And if your what you have left to give is just to inspire one more person to
Right.
do something better in their lives, that
Mm-hmm.
can dramatically change the future for the better. That
Absolutely.
tiny act.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. We see there's so many examples. I just one always stands out in my life of all the people I, help, because I'm in the helping profession. And we all help all the time anyway. But I just like it was before my, career or whatever even kicked off. But I was actually a reading teacher for a while in grad school. They had me helping college students learn how to read. Kids that are trying to get into college in a way, they're developmental students. So I was helping, and there's a lot of kids in there that were from not a lot, but some that were from like rough backgrounds and even in gangs still. So one of them that was from that background had been shot earlier in the year even,
Wow.
in there, and he was struggling with his reading test, and he was about to give up. When people give up, but he was like this at his desk and everything, and then he just happened to peek up and take a look at me. I did one little thing. I went, just put my thumb up, and I like that. I'm showing you right now, Corey. That's all I did, and he just was like, he didn't do this. He kind of like tipped his head or whatever. He's just like, yes, sir. Like it's just like it just landed for him. And he's like, that's it, and he just dove right in. By golly, he passed that test. He barely made it, but he passed that test. And then when I saw him, like every time I'd see him after that, I'd just be like, it was just that love that was so deep and so profound that I felt with for this young man. It's like I just like I just by the grace of God, I don't take the personal credit. It is a thumbs up, but like, and yet it was huge, and yet that's all it takes is the point too. Like, shit, I did may have changed his life. Maybe he threw in a towel. Who knows what's next then, right? So it made a big difference in his life, I felt. And, it's just it's simple as giving someone a thumbs up could change their whole life. We hear these things all the time. I hear all the time, Cody, on these podcasts, right? We heard it at the News Media Summit that we were at. They're like, yeah, someone listened to my podcast, said they decided not to kill themselves today because of what I said. It happens all the time, and it happens in life all the time, more than we realize.
Definitely. And that's the power we have in today's world. There are so many people that are just, they're so disconnected, they're so isolated, and they don't see anything going forward, right? Mm-hmm. And to simply give someone a thumbs up, or to simply say, hey, how's it going? And actually mean it, not just say it as you pass. Right. But like actually like stop and say, hey, how's it going? Right. Or to wave at someone as you pass by and driving. Right. Or smile at someone when you walk past them at the grocery store. Those little things have literally changed people's lives. There have been so many people who were getting ready to kill themselves that day. And someone's minute act of kindness made them decide not to kill themselves, and they went on and did something in the world.
Right. Absolutely. So please do not listen to people that say like, we can't just kind of be loving kindness anymore. We need to do more. Like just calm down a little bit with those people. Like be a little leery of that kind of energy coming from people. This more thing, we kind of falling into that with the save the world stuff too. We have to be a little bit careful with that stuff, or we're just feeding into the same thing that created the problems we're saying that exist. It's the same energy dynamic. You think it's for the good, but it's like it's creating a similar dynamic. So instead, it's like like I said, with like the stuff that I want to bring forth, these people I'm supporting, it's not about like, we got to bring down the establishment. I don't find that to be the right approach personally. Maybe that helps for some other causes, or some people the way they need to approach things. But like for me, it's more like, let's just focus on like what wants to happen, because it really is scientifically true. What we put our attention on is the reality we live. Period. End of story. It really is what we're truly putting our attention on ultimately. And that includes the undercurrent, of course. People say subconscious, everything. It's all that, but it's there and you can sense it and feel it. So what are you putting your attention really on? That's what's happening. You keep putting on struggle, how you're struggling, how the world's struggling, how the end of the world's coming up, and maybe that's what you're creating for yourself in a way. But if you keep putting your focus on what it is you really want to experience, that's really true for your passions, then everything, that's what's going to happen. It's scientific. I can prove it with any single person on the planet. Come to me. I'll show you how it's true. Absolutely, every single time, because I do this passion test with people. Every time we measure everything, like, well, let's see, which passion are you really living the most, and rate like how much they fulfilled it. It's always directly proportional to the amount of attention they've been putting to it. If you're not putting your attention on it, it's not happening. But your pure attention to it, and not with the negativity at the same time and all your fears, it's happening. We're all going to have negativity and fears at times, but if it's not your predominant thing, then the thing that we're focused on is going to come into fruition. So I think this like I guess some people call this like LOA 101 stuff right now, but it's like we have to remember these simple truths. At some point, the mind says always, it's not enough. We need more. there's something enlightened about that, but it gets twisted into, endless suffering and striving for something that is not real, okay, in my perception. Okay, so it's like you'll never be satisfied. You'll constantly be starving, inwardly, when you could be just enjoying everything. And that's why I said with loving and embracing everything. When you love and embrace everything, it's like it negates its negative charge. It allows it to start to shift, because all life wants to experience that embrace of life itself, which part of that is, the spectrum of that is love. It's just presence, it's love. And that starts to change everything. That is that ripple effect for sure.
Definitely. And thinking in that, one of my favorite lines that I like to talk about with that whole idea of like striving for more, right? Is you need to be satisfied but not content, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything you have is amazing, whatever that is you have. Even if it's the very bare minimums, awesome. But continue striving for more, right? The problem we have so often is we strive for more, but we're also not satisfied with what we have.
Right.
And so that creates this perpetual cycle of never have enough.
Exactly.
Right? So I need more because I don't have enough, but then when I get it, I need more because I don't have enough.
Mm-hmm.
You have to stop that cycle and say, no, it's okay. I have everything I need. Everything I'm striving for isn't because I need it, but I'm striving for it because I want to, because I'm looking to become a better version of myself.
I think for me, the way I look at it is that it's if we keep forward projecting, that's where it creates that problem too. Like, okay, but I want to get there. Well, if you drop out of that and you're just living in full aliveness right now, perpetually, you naturally are going to have what we consider growth and new breakthroughs and improve and all those concepts, right? So you're naturally going to see that as long as you're just fully embodied and live in what you're doing and fully in your passion and all that stuff we're talking about right now. So as long as you're doing that, then like I was just talking to a VIP client today, he's like, yeah, I can see where I'm going and where it wants to go, but I don't know all the steps in between. And my mind tries to figure it out. I realize I'm not supposed to do that. I'm not supposed to go too crazy trying to figure out all this because I don't know. Truth is, I don't know. I can try to map it out. Maybe that's right. Maybe it's not. Probably not right. It's not going to be the way it goes. So it's like instead being the practice of being in the moment, continuing to know where it's going, and letting the plans come to you organically rather than try to prefab the plans. Like, oh, this is exactly how I'll get there. That's how I've gotten in trouble with my training sometimes. Oh, do these exercises, do this, do that. But like last night, I was just totally creative and innovative. I just like, okay, I'm just going to keep lifting weights. And then after I can't lift anymore, I'll take a lighter weight and then lift more of that. Yeah, there's terms for that, doing that, right? Okay, drop sets, this, that. I don't give a shit what it's called. That was my thought last night. Like, I'm just doing whatever feels enlivening and amazing, and that's what's working for me right now. And I feel like that's where we want to play. We want to just play with our own knowing more so. We take in like the wisdom of others, but like we have to just stay in the moment. What we know, what we sense is like that edge right there in that moment, beyond all concept. Like Bruce Lee's a great example of that, right? Like he's like, ultimately he came up with the whole system, right? Jeet Kune Do. And he says, well, you know what? Maybe not so much Jeet Kune Do. No technique is the ultimate technique, is the way I say it. He said something similar. It's like ultimately, no technique basically is where you want to go. So if that makes sense, Cody. But like, we need to get a place where we're just totally present, because there's a master genius. I found sometimes I'm more natural and more accomplished in something when I begin it in some ways than after the instructor comes in and tells me what I'm doing wrong or what I need to change, right? Okay, you need to break that down, do this, do that. Okay, well, I'm way worse. So like, you can add, yes, you can definitely develop, but you got to always have the core of being awake in this moment, and then in just letting the rest be added on to you.
Definitely. Yeah. And that happens so often. We get just caught up completely in the future or completely in the past. And the problem is,
Mhm.
you can't change the past, and the future doesn't happen unless you act, right? If you don't
Mhm.
act, right, the past remains the past and you never
Mhm.
overcome it, right? And if you don't act, the future will never actually show up the way you hope it to show up. So
Mhm.
you have to
Mhm.
act today in order to either overcome the past or to create a better future. It only
Mhm.
happens when you actually take action.
Yes, yes. Okay, I got a 5-minute warning over here,
All
Cody. I got to
right.
get going.
No
Okay.
worries. I totally understand that. So, Daniel, is there anything you want to touch on before you have to take off?
Yeah, it's just this has been one of the more enlivening podcast episodes I've done anyway. So I really appreciate the opportunity, Cody. I could have predicted it. I mean, we were having such a great time even connecting through email. So I'm just grateful. I hope to come back in the future and continue to talk with you, even in
Sure.
offline too. Yeah, if people want to check out what I'm up to and what I'm doing, they can go to yoursacredpurpose.com. I offer free consultations for people that are the right fit. People are wanting to step up into their power as healers, transformational leaders, spiritual entrepreneurs. And you can also get a meditate and make money meditation, and also understand 4 ways you can learn how to meditate and make money. So check that out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. And definitely, anytime you want to come back, just let me know and we'll have another great conversation. I would love that.
Awesome. Okay, it's been a pleasure, Cody.
Same for me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Leadership Guide. Please make sure to go onto your favorite player of choice and there, rate the show, then subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Then, if you truly want to be a legendary leader, share this episode with someone that you know will be impacted, because legendary leaders fuel not only themselves, but others as well to their heroic potential. If you want to unlock your heroic potential faster, then you will want to join the League of Legendary Leaders, an association of leaders who are dedicated to unlocking their heroic potential, unlocking the heroic potential of others, and where legendary leaders are born. The League of Legendary Leaders also has a goal to raise $100,000 monthly to support nonprofits that are actively undertaking causes to impact the future in areas including neurodiversity, character strength, positive psychological research, homelessness, and more. Seize the call now. Go to www.theleadership.guide and click Get Free Guidance Now to propel you on your journey to legendary leadership. I'm your host, Cody Dakota, and I'm honored to have spent this time with you today. My final message for you, and listen closely. It's time. Wake up your heroic potential. Let go of your fears and anxieties, and let's discover what is possible on your journey to become a legendary leader. Emerge and become who you are meant to be.